She was just the coffee girl working the break room in a sprawling naval hospital, 28 years old, long dark hair pulled into a loose bun, wearing a plain gray tank top that couldn't hide the strength in her shoulders or the stories beneath her skin. Each morning, she wheeled between rooms with a battered wheelchair that had clearly seen better days, pushing a small cart loaded with steaming cups of whatever fuel the staff needed to survive their double shifts. Nobody looked at her twice. She was just the coffee girl until they saw the tattoo creeping up her left forearm, the black viper coiling tightly around a red ember, sharp fangs glinting in the fluorescent light, a design most would mistake for some trendy ink art. They laughed at her tattoo, not knowing it was the deadliest mark of all. The Viper was the insignia of SEAL Team 6's covert Ember unit, a name whispered only in classified briefings. To them, she was just the girl who couldn't keep the coffee from slipping, but the tattoo told a story none of those mocking men could fathom. She had been cleaning floors, refilling dispensers, and serving cups for over 3 years at that hospital, always keeping her head down, always quiet. The wheelchair beneath her was more than just a means to get around. It was the stubborn remnant of a mission gone sideways 5 years ago in Helmand Province. The blast that took her legs also took countless other lives, but not hers. She came out the other side marked by pain, loss, and resolve. Every morning, as she wheeled down those sterile corridors, no one guessed they were in the presence of Master Chief Sarah Raven Mitchell, decorated SEAL Team 6 veteran and survivor of Operation Viper Song, named after the very tattoo she bore. That was until the day the coffee spilled. 3 men crowded the break room, loud and careless, their voices rough and full of the kind of bravado that only men far from battlefields could muster. They joked about her wheelchair, the way she moved, that tattoo wrapping around her arm, calling her a poser, a fake, asking if the Viper meant she was some kind of snake handler or demon worshiper. Their laughter bounced off the sterile walls, loud enough to draw uneasy glances from nurses and doctors who preferred to avoid trouble. One of them, lean and tall with a crooked smirk and a navy tattoo himself, sneered and leaned in close, trapping her between the cart and the wall as if she were an obstacle in his path, not a person. The coffee spilled hot across her lap, but she didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't move. The men thought silence was weakness. They were wrong. A cold tension filled the room as one of the bigger men stepped forward, gesturing toward the tattoo with fingers dripping with mockery. "What's it say? Kill me now." His voice was flat but cruel. Another laughed, hoisting the wheels of her chair and spinning it so she looked more like a sideshow exhibit than a human being. "Maybe she's hiding something under those sleeves, huh? Let's see what the coffee girl's really packing." She blinked once, calm and unyielding, her eyes unafraid beneath long lashes. The mood shifted when one of the younger soldiers, who had been quietly sipping from his cup near the corner, shifted his gaze from his drink to the tattoo and froze. His face went pale when he saw the subtle scar across her wrist, the faint shimmer of the Ember unit insignia layered under the black ink. The kind of mark only a handful in the Navy knew about and fewer still could wear legally. He fumbled for his phone, thumb trembling. "Sir, you should see this," he whispered. The break room fell silent, the men who had been mocking her suddenly aware that this was not just a coffee girl, not just a casualty of war, but something else entirely. That's when the Admiral called the President. The message was coded, terse but urgent. In less than 10 minutes, 8 black SUVs rolled into the parking lot, their engines low and threatening. From the shadows, a dozen Navy SEALs in crisp tactical gear emerged, faces set and unreadable, their presence casting the entire hospital staff into stunned silence. Inside, the 3 men who had cornered her suddenly found themselves surrounded, the air thick with a silent, unspoken warning. "You will apologize to Master Chief Sarah Mitchell," the leader of the SEALs said, voice steady and cold as steel, breaking protocol in the most unexpected way. "This place is under our protection now." The coffee girl, no, Raven, sat straight, her eyes flashing just for a moment with a mix of grace and quiet vengeance. "You mocked a ghost, and she let you live to regret it. But who was she really? What story did that Viper tattoo hold? How did the coffee girl become Raven, the warrior who jumped on a grenade to save 23 soldiers during one of the deadliest battles in Afghanistan? And why did the Admiral, a man who had seen every kind of battlefield carnage, break all rules just to make one phone call that shook the highest levels of government? The answers lay in the scars she carried, the hidden details in her tattoo's coils, details no one expected and everyone would soon have to reckon with. Because beneath the routine, beneath the quiet dignity and the spilled coffee, was a soldier whose sacrifice had rewritten the meaning of heroism. And the story wasn't over yet. The moments stretched between them, thick and heavy with silence that no one dared break. The three men, once loud and confident, now stood frozen, their brashness dissolved into something far bitterer, fear. The break room seemed smaller, more suffocating, as the weight of realization settled over the stunned staff watching from doorways and behind nurse stations. Raven, wrapped in the quiet power of her presence, finally looked up, her eyes steady and piercing. "You will apologize to Master Chief Sarah Mitchell." The voice came not from her but from the leader of the CLS, a man as cold and unyielding as the steel of his rifle, standing just beside her. His words weren't a request, they were a verdict. The taller of the three men opened his mouth to deflect, to deny, but the captain of the team's gaze cut through him like a blade. "No," he said firmly. "You mocked a ghost, and she let you live to regret it." The words reverberated through the sterile room, silencing every token of bravado they'd tried to wear like armor. Slowly, grudgingly, one by one, they muttered apologies, murmurs stopped only by sharp commands to leave. Leave and don't ever come back. Outside, the patrol of Navy SEALs moved with methodical precision, sweeping the perimeter, a reminder etched into the minds of everyone present that this hospital was not just ground for healing, but a place under their strict watch. The coffee girl's wheelchair remained unmoved, the worn wheels scarred but reliable beneath her steady grip. Her gray tank top and loose bun still made her look like the most unassuming person in the room. But beneath the surface was a history so profound it shook the foundations of the Naval Command. The young soldier who had made the call leaned quietly toward her, voice almost reverent. "Master Chief Mitchell, sir. I had no idea. I thought it was just a tattoo." She gave a slight, knowing smile, the kind that carries the weight of battles survived and lives saved. "It never was just a tattoo," she replied quietly. "That viper was born in fire." Minutes later, just beyond the break room's sterile walls, the Admiral's secure line buzzed insistently. The man on the other end, the President of the United States, listened with tight attention as details poured through coded chatter. The Admiral's voice was low but firm. "Sir, you need to understand the gravity of this. Sarah Raven Mitchell is not just a casualty or a coffee girl. She's Ember 2, the operative who saved 23 teammates by willingly covering a grenade during Operation Viper Song 5 years ago in Helmand Province." The president exhaled quietly, the gravity of the moment sinking in. "Then we owe her far more than silence." The call ended, but the ripple of that revelation spread farther than any of them could have predicted. The reunion wasn't instant, but the next days brought mounting recognition that redefined the hospital's very air. Word of Raven's true identity spread quietly but unrelentingly up and down the hallways. Nurses paused to nod respectfully as she passed by. Doctors offered quiet salutations, and the once dismissive whispers transformed into stories of awe and gratitude. The hospital administration, under the urging of the SEAL unit, arranged a formal event recognizing her service. Invitations came not only from the Navy, but also from the highest ranks of government and the Veterans Affairs Office. The coffee girl, no longer just a figure wheeling between rooms, was a symbol of sacrifice and resilience. Her story unfolded fully for the first time in public. A decorated Master Chief in SEAL Team 6, she had earned the call sign, Raven, for her ability to strike without warning from the shadows. Ember 2, part of a secret subsection tasked with sabotage and evacuation in hostile territory. Raven's most harrowing moment was a night marked by relentless gunfire and explosions, a mission hung by a thread. 5 years ago, while navigating a labyrinth of enemy combatants 300 yards inside hostile territory, a grenade landed among her and 24 soldiers. Without hesitation, she threw herself upon it, absorbing the blast but saving everyone else. The resulting injuries ended her ability to serve on the front lines. Her prosthetic legs became permanent fixtures of her new life, but they could never diminish the warrior spirit within. The hospital wing where she worked was renamed in her honor, complete with a plaque telling the story of the woman behind the simple title of Coffee Girl. Security protocols shifted. No longer was Raven overlooked or underestimated. Instead, she became a figure of protection and strength, trusted implicitly by both staff and patients. The very break room where she was humiliated now stood as a testament to resilience. The Viper tattoo, no longer a symbol of rebellion or confusion, but of unyielding courage. And the three men, those once brazen enough to mock and intimidate, were held fully accountable. Navy investigative units quickly moved in, making clear that disrespect, especially towards someone with Raven's service record, carried permanent consequences. One was disciplined and reassigned. Another faced a court-martial for conduct unbecoming. The third was ordered into mandatory re-education on military decorum and the sacrifices borne by veterans with disabilities. The message was clear. Honor was not optional, and the price of ignorance was steep. In the quieter moments afterward, when the applause had faded and the uniforms had been carefully hung away, Raven settled back into her wheelchair, pushing the familiar wheels along the polished floors with the ease of someone reclaiming her place. She carried no bitterness, only a steadfast resolve. The Viper tattoo on her arm caught the light, a coil around a red ember, and beneath that ink was a promise unbroken. That respect is earned not through appearances, but through actions and sacrifice. She spoke softly with the young soldier who had first noticed her mark, her voice steady but laced with unspoken history. "See that scar there," she said, tracing the faint line beneath the ink. "That's where I took my last bullet. It reminds me every day that even when parts of us break, we don't stop fighting. We just find new ways to win." As cameras captured the moment, recording for veteran advocacy groups, military historians, and the public, Raven's story became a beacon. It was a tale not just of survival but of transformation. How the ignored could rise to command respect. How scars could tell stories fiercer than any words. And how even in the humblest roles, heroes walked among us. In the echoes of that hospital, resounding with the quiet footsteps of nurses and doctors, the name, Raven, now carried a weight as heavy and sacred as the badge on a Marine's jacket or the wings of an airman. Her final act in that setting was to wheel herself past the very men who doubted her, meeting the gaze of one who lingered with broken bravado. Without a word, her eyes spoke volumes. You mocked a ghost, and she let you live to regret it. The room seemed to hold its breath as she passed, the silence an unshakable verdict. Then the hospital broke out in whispers of respect and awe, the kind that rebuilt reputations and shattered assumptions. This was no longer the coffee girl. This was Master Chief Sarah Raven Mitchell, Ember 2, survivor, protector, a legend too real to be ignored. And in every corner of that hospital, from the neon-lit break room to the polished floors she tirelessly cleaned, her story was a call to action, a reminder to honor every veteran, to see beyond the